Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 18th Annual Jersey Shorecast presented by the Lloyd D. Levinson Institute of Gaming, Hospitality, and Tourism at Stockton University. My name is Jane Buckinevich, and I'm the Faculty Director of Light, and I'm joined today by a panel of tourism and hospitality industry experts, along with our moderator, journalist and entrepreneur, Scott Cronick, and they'll introduce themselves to you in just a moment, but I wanted to share some information from our Shore View panel, which was presented in October, where we were reflecting on last year's summer results. So last year at Shoreview, there was economic uncertainty surrounded by the tariffs and inflation, and the panel concluded that did have an impact on spending last summer. The job market was relatively soft, and there was a slight uptick in unemployment. There was a trend that people were booking their vacations closer to the time of the trip rather than booking into the future. The weather in June affected overall results, although July and August did improve. And the air show returned to Atlantic City, and Wildwood also had an air show, and the results of those events were very positive. The immigration policy depressed Canadian visitation somewhat last summer. So we measure visitation the best we can by using the data collected on the Atlantic City Expressway Pleasantville Toll Plaza. It's not a complete picture, but as you can see from this chart, the visitation has been relatively flat in the last couple of years. The black is 2021, where we had a slight uptick after COVID, and since then, the expressway tolls have been relatively flat. So total gross gaming revenue was up last summer, as shown by the black line on this chart, but you can see from the yellow block there that internet gaming is becoming an increasingly important segment in gross gaming revenue. So on this chart, you can see the blue line, which is slots, tables, and poker, and the yellow is internet gaming. So in the summer, typically because people love to come to the shore, there is more brick and mortar gaming revenue than internet gaming. But as you can see, the gap is narrowing each year as internet gaming becomes more important. Not shown on this chart, but year-to-date and full year 2025, internet gaming has exceeded brick-and-mortar gaming. Internet gaming shows no sign of slowing down. It continues to increase each year. And one thing that the casino operators faced last year and continuing even into this year is that even though gross gaming revenue was increasing, net revenue, which is the gross revenue less promotional expenses, has been trending downward. And that's been true even for the beginning of this year. So it's costing the casinos more to attract customers. The number of jobs has not really recovered since the pandemic, and even in 2028, we had a peak, a recent peak, not a long-term peak, but a recent peak, and the numbers have been relatively flat, but slightly down year over year. And last year, as I said, at the Shore View panel, unemployment was trending upward at that time. Okay, so that sets the stage for looking towards this summer, and I'm going to turn it over to Scott, so take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you to Dr. Buckinevich, and a round of applause to her. This is her final event. She has announced her retirement, so congratulations to you, and good luck in your future. And we're going to welcome Brian Tyrell into that role very soon, and congratulations, Brian. We're looking forward to seeing how you bring light into the future. And I want to thank the panel for being here, and also thank Stockton as well as Light for having me be here. It's truly an honor. Welcome to the Jersey Shorecast, the 18th annual Spring Tourism and Business Panel Discussion. I am Scott Cronick, and for the next hour, we are going to talk to some really intelligent and insightful industry experts who are going to talk about the fall, as well as look into the future of what the summer is going to look like right here at the Jersey Shore. Of course, tourism is our lifeblood in this area, and we cannot wait to see what this panel has to tell us today. We're going to start from my left, Michael Chait. He is the Public Information Officer for the New Jersey Casino and Reinvestment Development Authority. Hi, Michael.
Morning.
Oliver Cook is the Associate Professor of Economics right here at Stockton. Oliver, welcome. Daniel Gallagher is Executive Director of the Atlantic City Sports Commission. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning.
And then Diane Whelan. She is the Director of Tourism Cultural Heritage for the Cape May County Department of Tourism. With that, we're going to delve right into the questions, and we'll start with Michael, and then we could work our way. And everyone, please feel free to, after the speaker is done, whoever wants to jump in next, just to add to the conversation. We'll try to keep it as conversational as we can. In your opinion, Michael, how did the local tourism industry perform last year?
I think if you look at the tourism economics report that the state puts out each year, it was about $8.4 billion in visitor spend over the year. So it's trending up, but it's a little bit up. Cape May County, I don't want to steal Diane's thunder, but she'll talk about that a little bit, how well they did last year. So overall, the numbers were up. I think the daily visitor volume, according to that report, was down slightly, but overnight stays were up, according to that study, across Atlantic County. The weather, as you heard earlier, certainly had an impact on the tourism economy. I came over to CRDA in May of last year, so we were ramping up in my prior role as chamber president, talking to small businesses and the opportunities looking forward, and the weather crushed them from last year. It got off to a really, really slow start. But Atlantic City, the casino properties are investing billions of dollars into their properties. The properties are amazing. You started to see some diversity in what people can do here, with the water park and some other amenities, but it trended up slightly, and I think my colleagues can dive into that a little bit more from Visit Atlantic City, Diane, and certainly Dr. Cook can dig into it a little bit more, but it did overall trended up based on prior years.
Okay. Oliver?
Yeah, I think it was kind of reflecting back to last fall, there were definitely, I think that there were patches that were, certainly, as Michael just indicated, kind of trended up. One of the things that I kind of keep track of is summer employment. And summer employment, typically, this is the two-county area, Atlantic and Cape May, usually bumps up about somewhere around 9 to 10% in the summer months. Last year, it was only about 8%. So that's not huge, but it's maybe an indicator of some hesitancy going back to last summer, some of the policy chaos, some of the immigration stuff that Jane mentioned, some inflationary pressures where you had some folks perhaps being a little bit more hesitant than they had been in 2023, 2024. And the other piece that I kind of track carefully is the hotel and motel tax. Especially during the summer months. And as I indicated last fall, I only had a couple of data points in the bank. I guess it would sort of been like September, October, whenever it was that we met last in the fall. And the hotel and motel tax collections for the two-county area was actually down pretty substantially over the entire summer. It's still a little bit unclear to me why that is, as I mentioned already in the fall.
That's just in Atlantic City?
No, that's the two-county area. That's the Atlantic County and Cape May County. So I'll leave it there, and maybe Diane can actually add to the conversation. But it does seem pretty significant. So I'm somewhat a little bit skeptical.
Diane, why don't you follow that up, please, if you don't?
I'm going to talk about the occupancy tax right now. Yeah. First, though, let me tell you, we had a great summer. We were in June. July and August picked up, and we saw an increase of 4.2% in overall spending, visitor spending in Cape May County. The occupancy tax issue is confusing. I'm not sure what the formula is. However, we were down 32% according to the state treasury, the postings for occupancy tax. But our actual lodging was up 7.6%. So how do you generate more lodging, but 32% less in occupancy tax? So I don't know how the formula works. If I look across the board and you look at Monmouth County, they generated $713 million in lodging. We were 3.57 billion, yet they generated only $1 million less than us in occupancy. There's something wrong. I'm not sure what it is. I think that they had some changes in the reporting. The portal had been changed. So maybe there's something wrong there. I thought at the end of the day, we would come out the same. But we were down 32%. It did not make sense. They listed September, we generated more money than August. That just, that was the first clue that that's not quite right. So we're hoping that this issue with the portal, the reporting, and how they're doing this will change this year, and we'll have a better idea. Occupancy tax is very important for us. It's a monthly benchmark that we use to compare month over month, year over year, to help us understand overnight stays and what we need to do to create more of them. So,
Have you ever
that's...
seen that happen before, Diane? Like that
No, I never
Okay.
had seen that happen. We talked to different people, the folks at Tourism Economics, they felt the same thing. They do the work for the state. So the numbers are there. We saw from 23 million to 15. It didn't make sense when we saw higher lodging revenue. Even if they raised the rates, the tax is on the revenue. So I don't know if you see.
Yeah, no, it
So
seems
we're
odd,
still
for sure.
asking questions. What is the formula? How does somebody who generates 1/5 of the lodging revenue than we did just collect less than 1 million? So that's where I am. I've been studying the occupancy tax since it started in 2005. So it was certainly piqued my interest in what was going on. So
Sure.
yeah, that's where we are with occupancy.
Dan, you want to talk about 25?
Yeah, so I'll take it from a different perspective. Obviously, the meetings, trade shows, convention side, and what Visit Atlantic City Sports Commission has seen. We partner with Future Pace, so we're seeing what the national average is across the country, especially in some of our competitor markets. And I think the big misconception is people always assume that Philadelphia or New York are our competitor markets, and that couldn't be further from the truth. We look at Providence, Pittsburgh, Richmond, Myrtle Beach, Virginia Beach. Those are kind of our competitor sets, but we are looking at it from a national average. And from the meetings industry as a whole, it was fairly flat across the nation. However, Atlantic City performed rather well. We came off what was another banner year, over 270,000 room nights generated by Visit Atlantic City alone, which does not include the 50,000 from group tour and travel, which is about 600,000 attendees and close to 370 million in economic impact. So when you look at what the national average is and how Atlantic City is producing as a whole, you're starting to understand Atlantic City's geographical positioning and how the ease of access to get here plays a major factor. And I know some of the other questions later we'll get into gas prices and everything, but I think this was coming a long time before, and the meetings and trade show industry has gotten creative in how they can make it affordable for their attendee to make it there, because registration prices continue to go up, but they're continuing to have to cut costs here and there to make the conference affordable and sustainable, more importantly. So it was good to see that Atlantic City was well positioned from the meetings trade show side of things from a national average.
So last year, the air show, Visit AC took that over. This weekend is the air show again. First time it's going to be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday scenario, so it's going to be interesting. What was the air show impact last year, and why the move?
Yeah, so it was about 100. We were very conservative with our number. We looked at about 150,000 people for the week. It was midweek, obviously. It was July last year. This week we moved to a weekend format. The main reason for that is really the Blue Angels, and Michael he's the guru when it comes to the air show, truly. But it was really getting on the calendar for the Blue Angels and Thunderbirds, right? And you have to make that decision 3 years out, in some cases even further. So they don't do midday shows anymore. It's not a thing. We were very fortunate to have them for as long as we did. But in order to do that, we had to make the change, and most importantly, we want to be consistent moving forward. So we had to make that move now. It's the first time it's going to be a 3-day show. It'll be from 12 to 2:30 each day. We're glad that we're not anticipating weather like we have today, but we think that it'll be a good kickoff to summer moving forward, and in what really is a need time period for us.
Different week. different weekend, all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. Good luck to you guys on that. All right, Oliver, let's talk about the region's current economic
Can I
circumstances.
add
Sorry,
to
go ahead,
the,
Diane.
I'm sorry. I wanted to add to the local tourism. Cape May County moved to the top. We're the #1 tourism destination in the state, which we've been, like, we were Avis all these years. We just worked harder. So we're happy to announce that we are up 4.2%. Across the board, we increased in spite of the June weather and the Canadian forecast. We still saw an increase of about $340 million over prior year. So we continue to look to, dissect what we did, how we did it, what works, so we can continue in that same growth pattern.
Okay, thank you. All right, Oliver, let's talk about the region's current economic circumstances and how you see them changing in the near, mid, and long term.
There's actually decent momentum right now, building through the early, kind of spring. This is kind of year-on-year job growth through April is actually up a pretty robust 3% year-on-year. I think perhaps most tellingly, that 3%, by the way, is about 5K of the metropolitan area population now, which is technically now the two counties are together in the metropolitan area. And about half of that is actually tied to restaurants and bar employment. That's a pretty, I think, good indicator of vis-a-vis last year that folks are the folks that are making these hiring decisions early, obviously bringing staff on in April and May for the summer season are hopeful at a minimum. So that's a very good sign. Retail is also
different from last year where they were, right.
Yeah, it was very flat. And so, I mean, that's a decent sign. Whether or not that materializes in terms of revenue coming in the door, we're obviously going to see. But in terms of folks that are making hiring decisions on the ground, which is a little bit kind of bucking the national trend, because as everybody knows, the job market, as Jane mentioned, kind of has continued to remain relatively soft. The unemployment rate has remained relatively low despite the kind of national softness in the job market, largely, I think, owing to what's going on in terms of the overall labor force. As the labor force kind of is basically stagnant, this obviously, helps in terms of, kind of soften the apparent job market softness to some extent. So I think I think moving forward, obviously the big, it's been in the front pages of the newspaper for several weeks now. I think obviously the larger question kind of near term over the next 3 to 4 years is the larger gaming industry vis-a-vis, what's going on north of us, which is, the big question, right, that is kind of looming. So, we can get into that a little bit later. But I think right now, I'm a little bit worried about, what's going to happen over the summer, because I do think the level of uncertainty, gas prices, Dan mentioned, we can talk about some of this stuff a little bit later on, but I'll leave it there.
Have we seen gas prices, and that's a good, if you're going to bring that up now, maybe, and we'll follow up with this question too, but have gas prices been actually, have they gone up, have been a positive effect for tourism in South Jersey? Am I right, in the past or not?
I think that there's a lot of times I think people think that this is promotes the stay vacations, right? Especially because airline tickets are very high right now as well. And so gas is up, yes, but airline tickets are maybe even more up, largely owing to jet fuel, unsurprisingly.
And then people might take shorter drives, opposed to longer drives, those kind of things.
So this might have some positive effect, on the shore. There has been some time, if you go back maybe Brian even probably remembers, I want to say summer of 2014 or 15, gas prices I think at one point were north of $5 almost down here, and that ended up being a pretty robust summer. So there's some history there, but I'll let some other folks.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Michael, you want to follow up?
No, he touched on kind of the tourism economics of things, but some of the things that we're seeing at CRDA is a lot of larger development projects go through our land use department that are supposed to start construction later this year, which create a different type of job. You're talking about the project of Caspian Point getting off the ground, that's 180 rental units. You're talking about right here in Chelsea neighborhood, another 70 townhouses. You saw Brian Zubak just do a ribbon cutting at his properties. Evan Sanchez is completing his, I think, 8 townhouses on Westminster. So there's development that's going to contribute to the economy, help diversify it a little bit in the area with some larger projects, but altogether it's 425 units have been approved through our land use process that's going to contribute to the economy locally. There's other projects in the hopper now, but we're seeing more attention, more interest in development in Atlantic City, which is a good thing. It helps diversify the economy. It brings residents here. You know, some of these homes are probably going to be second homeowners at first, but it also, you know, what that contributes to Atlantic City is something we haven't seen in a long time. Yeah. So we want to hope to accelerate that at CRDA and continue with that momentum. So a little bit different on it. But what he was saying about gas prices is Cape County, Atlantic County predominantly are drive-in markets.
Yeah.
You know, this could really help with the summer season. It'll be interesting to see what the price of them.
Dan, you want to talk about looking forward and current circumstances with the economy?
Yeah, you know, I think Atlantic City, you know, to kind of plus one off of what Michael Chait said, like you see this reinvestment into Atlantic City. You haven't seen that in a very long time, and that is something that we are touting when we're going out. You know, I travel, you know, every other 3 weeks. I'm in the air. Going to a new conference and preaching the good news that's taking place in Atlantic City. And for the longest time, there was that one thing that took place each year. You know, Michael just rattled off 5 different projects that are taking place right now, and that's something that's kind of unprecedented that we haven't seen in a very long time. And that workforce is very different than the casino workforce, right? So bringing that workforce back into our area, showing that they can create roots here with sustainable job force is only going to stimulate the economy. And I will say from a meetings and trade show standpoint, we knew 2026 was going to be a difficult year. Like I said, 2025 was incredible, and we can go into that in a little bit more detail based on the other questions, but we knew it was going to be a difficult year. So if, you know, and Atlantic City always has to diversify its portfolio on what we're offering. So we, like for the longest time, it was gaming. And you look at the Las Vegas model and what they did in diversifying what they offer, they're not just a gaming destination anymore. And I think Atlantic City's done a really good job. You look at the cycle, you want to work where you live, and you know, people are finding that is doable now in Atlantic City.
I imagine at this point you have most of your conventions and major events booked. Compared to last year, even up,
yeah,
down?
so 2025 was a great year to push pace out, right? So we had things on the book for 2031, 2032. Those are, again, it was a great buying market for 2025. 2026, people are a little bit more hesitant to make that big commitment, especially with the larger conventions, because they want a more regionalized event where people, because gas prices, like I said, I'm flying to Columbus on Monday. My ticket was $1,003 to get to Columbus, Ohio. That is not something that, yes, that's atypical, right? So people are looking for drive-in markets or a more regionalized market. So you'll start to see, you know, those hot spots in the country where they can get, you know, 1/3 of their attendees, or in some cases 2/3 of their attendees there without having them get on a plane. You'll start to see that, but they're waiting to kind of see how the shoe drops. And then, you know, with the international, you know, we'll talk about FIFA later, but the international market is extremely difficult right now. You know, people just aren't traveling internationally as much as they were before, and you know, Atlantic City's always been a good international market because we are a resort destination or a tourist destination. So to see how that plays out this summer is going to be interesting.
Cape County perspective, Diane?
What we looked at last year is we do a survey each year of visitors who come to our area, and we were entering last year with 57% of our respondents saying that they were going to reduce spending on vacation. They were still taking their vacation. They were going to reduce spending. They were shopping around for accommodations. They were going to reduce spending on food, entertainment. So we took a look at, you know, a tank of gas away. And this isn't our first time using that campaign. Within 300 miles, there's 30 million people. So we really concentrated on that tank of gas away, and to bring people back, return visitors, new visitors. Social media helped us. We used every level of marketing we could, every format, and we saw that they were waiting later to make the reservations, and that they were shopping around. And so we continued that marketing. We saw people responding. We know that people will take their vacation. So we were counting on that. It turned out that it worked out pretty well. We continue to do that marketing objectives, making sure that we are targeting the 300-mile radius, tank of gas away. It's resonating with visitors. We heard over the past weekend, we had a great Memorial Day weekend. Towns were packed. A lot of activity. It was a great time. The beach is always the competition. It was a great time for the restaurants, the bars, the wineries, the breweries, shopping, and other non-beach activities. They did very well. So we're going to continue with that effort, and what we're hearing from our businesses and our stakeholders are reservations are coming in. We have hotels that are saying they're already 80% reserved for July, which kind of changes that, what we started to see with people waiting later to make the reservation. So we're seeing that that's changing a little bit. August, 60% filled, all music to my ears, but they have more money. They're not shopping, they're not asking about pricing, they're booking their vacation, they want to be here, they want to take their vacation and do the things that they normally do. A lot of multi-generational families are coming, so that is also helping. And we have about 39% of our visitors are staying a week or longer. So it's all starting to come back. And some of the things we're hearing is that people had received higher income tax returns. So now they have a little more money. We have a lot of second homeowners who the stock market did well, and they're doing well with that. So we see that as a positive and a little bit of a change in the trend for Cape County.
Great, thanks, Dan. Daniel, let's start. Events, trends that maybe you think impacted 2025 season, and do you feel that they will still have an impact this year, and maybe what's coming on this year that maybe wasn't here last year? So you're a big events guy, so can you talk about last year's events, the impact of them, and now looking forward to 26?
Night and day difference. Not comparing apples to oranges. Truthfully, this year, with the resources that the CRDA has provided us, they've allowed us to go after some large events that haven't been in the destination for a very long time. And I was talking earlier about Memorial Day weekend. I think it's rained on Memorial Day weekend for the last 20 years straight, or at least it's felt that way. And trying to place events in the calendar year that, we always joke that we have 3 weekends to make our money in Atlantic County. It's Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day weekend. So trying to bolster that summer spend by putting events in need periods like the week before, after Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day weekend is a process that's worked really well for us. So, this weekend in particular, we have the air show for 3 days. We have Slippery Stairs. I don't know if anyone's seen Slippery Stairs, but it aired on the Ocho 156 times last year, our Atlantic City episode. And then obviously the LPGA. So we're expecting a very strong, robust economic spend this weekend, but it's more than that, right? So we're bringing back the APBA this year, American Powerboat Association. Those are the big boats. That'll be taking place June 28th and 29th. June 27th and 28th. Then we have WWE that is coming back, who hasn't been here in an extremely long time, which will be here June 29th. We announced Rufus Du Sol, which will be a beach concert, which we haven't had in a couple of years, which will be August 28th. And big acts like Shakira, who just did 2 million people in Rio de Janeiro.
Seeing more stuff at Boardwalk Hall.
More stuff at Boardwalk Hall, and you bring up a good point. That building needs to be utilized more, right? And our partnership with OVG and with the CRDA has really kind of twisted the model and put it on its head. Say, okay, if we can make $1, right? That is a good piece of business for us, because the lights are on, people are coming to the destination. It's not just the P&L to the building. P&L to the building has been phenomenal, actually, since we've been bringing in these new acts. But there's just so many new things going on. My joke is that there's all these balls in the air. I keep telling our CEO, Gary, that one of these balls is going to drop and it's going to be my fault. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But you're starting to see large-scale events that are consumer-based events that come back here that are really driving tourism, where in 2025, that funding model wasn't the same. And for us, we took on the leisure marketing market in January of last year. And for example, we never had a booking engine in Atlantic City. We pushed 102,000 people through our booking engine, which we thought we were going to do about 50, so it doubled what that is. We're doing banner planes down the beach, and we had videos in Times Square in New York when the ball was dropping on New Year's Eve. We did a full Philadelphia takeover at Reading Terminal. Our message as a destination is getting out there, and what I will say is that where we were before being proactive and trying to find events that wanted to come to Atlantic City, it's now the other way around where people are like, okay, I'm watching all these acts come to Atlantic City, how do I become one of them? So the messaging working, the process is working, and I think that 2026 from an event standpoint will be extremely different than 2025.
Michael?
No, I think Dan hit it on the head. I think our role, CRDA's role, obviously with funding Visit Atlantic City and talking to our stakeholders in town, is we're trying to find ways to activate Boardwalk Hall. What do we need? What do we need to do? What do we need to address from an infrastructure standpoint? How do we make the building more cost effective? Those large events, what they do for our economy, not just during the summer, but certainly the shoulder seasons, is it's an influx of disposable income. People come, they stay, they go out to dinner, they shop. It brings people back to town that maybe haven't been here in a while, and it brings some new people to town. So large-scale events are critical to our economy, and it keeps Atlantic City on the map.
Is there a reason we're seeing more Boardwalk Hall events?
No, I think Dan said it. I said it continues with that momentum, right? When they start seeing events that are successful in Boardwalk Hall, it creates momentum and interest. I think what you're seeing across the industry, New York posted an article on Blue Dot Fever. And Blue Dot Fever is Ticketmaster recently, or Live Nation recently canceled some large tours. Inflation, economic times are challenging, and there was just too much product out there. And you're competing for that entertainment dollar across so many different platforms. And these tours weren't moving tickets. And then all of a sudden you get an announcement like Bruno Mars is going on tour, and FIFA World Cup's coming, and the All-Star Game's coming to Philly. So our market, there's only so much disposable income, but being a market like Atlantic City that has incredible restaurants, unbelievable properties to stay, world-class hospitality, free beaches, it creates an environment, Diane said it earlier, within a third of the nation's population lives here, that instantly attracts people to that building. I mean, I was fortunate enough to work in that building for 8-9 years, and at the time we were the top grossing mid-sized arena in the world. I don't think it's that hard for us to get back to that.
I agree.
Oliver, anything on events with you?
No,
Okay,
no,
Diane, you want to talk
yeah.
about Cape May County? Obviously, the air show was a big deal, but the beach concerts in Wildwood.
yes.
You want to talk a little bit about all those events?
There's events that are going to take place every weekend in every town. The FIFA games in Philadelphia are going to be important to us. We're already out there marketing. We just want people to realize what there is 90 minutes away from Philadelphia. A large portion of the people coming, about 500,000 people are coming. A large portion of them don't have tickets, but they want to be part of the excitement. So we are promoting billboards, social media, print for the FIFA attendees to come. We're featuring wide beaches and people playing soccer on the beach. We're not allowed to say the World Cup or FIFA, but we can say we have plenty of space to do it. The 250th is also, the county had a $250,000 grant program to have the municipalities enhance the program to celebrate the 250th. We have a billboard campaign, we have a social media and mobile campaign. We took on the concept that George Washington crossed the Delaware, why don't you? We didn't mention Trenton, we just mentioned follow the bridge, come across. And I think it's going to be a great impact for all of South Jersey, but we have a campaign called Where's George? And George will be enjoying every aspect of what we have to offer in Cape May County to bring people and remind them that, it's great to go see these historic sites. We can never compete with Philadelphia, but we do have some great, a lot of history, the impact of Cape May County for the fight for independence. It's going to be a big part of it, but also the celebration, the fun, watching fireworks and drone shows on the beach is pretty spectacular. So those are the things we're looking at and following those trends that people are looking to experience a little slice of Americana, and how better can you do that than in South Jersey?
So is there a missed opportunity? When I look at Cape May County schedule, it just kind of blows my mind, when I see all of it's a lot of little things, it's the antique car shows, it's the sports car shows, it's the comic book conventions, it's the, all the things that line the boardwalks, whether it's in Wildwood or whether it's in Ocean City, and it kind of just makes me jealous, living in Atlantic County, that we don't capitalize on what I think is the greatest boardwalk of them all right here in our own backyard, Atlantic City, right? And, is there a missed opportunity there, and how do we take advantage of that? Anybody want to jump in on that?
One of the things we talk about is the trends. And the trends, the emerging travel trends are that people are looking for local culture, a little more rural. They want to see rural areas. They don't want to accumulate stuff. They want to accumulate experiences and memories. And that's what happens with these small events and these little local events. They really feed into that trend for local culture.
And even extending the season. I mean, the Wildwoods are the kings of that, right? You got the Irish
Right.
Festival, the
They
Italian
started
Festival.
it, yep.
Right?
Yes. Now all the way through to first night
Yeah.
in Ocean City. There are events taking place.
Michael, is there a missed opportunity? How did we fix that?
That's a good question. I think there's a lot of things that are happening in town that maybe we're just not aware of. Showboat has a card collector show coming up, that I found about the other day. My son collects cards. We're going to go over and check it out. You and I have certainly produced plenty of events in the past. The event you do, the Wing Wars is awesome. But like you're saying, these are unique experiences that you can share with everybody. Visit Atlantic City. They've got a whole slate of things that are coming up. I just don't think that it's been maybe consistent enough. So like Wildwood and Cape May County, on this weekend when Irish Festival is, when this is. We've had things move, unfortunately, over time for a variety of reasons. Maybe that's it. Maybe there's a lot that's happening. It's just they've moved from time to time for a variety. Seafood Festival, it was in Bader Field. It was in Gardner's Basin. Now it's in Ventnor. So I think that maybe these things are still happening. It's just over time they've moved.
I would love to see stuff on our own boardwalk.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Dan, any?
No, I mean, Mike brings up a good point, right? So I'll use Restaurant Week, for example, right? It was in October, we moved it to March, and instead of a week long, we made it a month long.
Right.
70% of our people that come and stay, they stay for only one night, right? We saw that in that month, we went to 1.7. So that's a significant jump by just making it a week long to a month long in a need period in March, right? Where we had 80 restaurants show up. I mean, at the captain's table, I think there were 42 restaurants there. So, and again, consistent messaging. It will not move from the month of March. I'm telling you that right now. But the captain's table is a great kickoff to that. And we've changed the way we're engaging with our local eateries or restaurants and bars, right? We are automating the process. For years and years and years, it was a burden to try and get them to sign up because of all the rigmarole that it went through. Now everything's automated. They can go on. And we've tiered the menus, right? So there's 3 different options that you have because it didn't make sense for an upscale restaurant to offer a discounted meal at $33.33, or it didn't make sense for a bar to offer that same thing at $66.66, right? So tiering it, making it more affordable, approachable, right? And consistency, making it a month long, driving tourism and going from 1 night to 1.7 nights is showing that the proof is in the pudding. So, but to Mike's point, consistency is key. And, again, going back to the air show, we want to make sure that people know that this event is coming up on this day. And I think, to be transparent, I think this year will be a little bit softer because for some people, it's not even on their radar that the air show is this weekend because in their brain, right, they're like, it's July, it's July, it's July. It's not even something that they're anticipating. But you have to make that first move, that first kind of gut punch move to make sure that you're setting yourself up for longevity in the future.
So Diana is the Director of Cultural Heritage and Tourism for Cape May County. We don't have that in Atlantic County, do we? I mean, we have obviously Visit AC and things like that, but we have a county sponsored, Dan, do we have somebody that's on our?
Yes. Elizabeth Bakley here is our Culture and Heritage.
For Atlantic County?
For Cape May County, but she works with Atlantic County as well, with all of the counties.
Okay.
For the grant programs and activities that are related to art and culture. Yes,
All right.
Atlantic County does.
Very good. All right. How about FIFA? That's been brought up a bunch of times. What is the impact of that? Is it as big as some people say it's going to be? Is it going to come to South Jersey?
I'll take that one because I've been dealing with FIFA a lot recently. So we were awarded a grant through the state to host an official watch party. You can say World Cup, you can't say FIFA World Cup, you can't say fan festival, you can't say official viewing party, you can't say World Cup viewing party. There's all these hoops to jump through. We were awarded, like I said, a grant. We will be doing a watch party on the beach in conjunction with the Atlantic City Beach Festival. It'll be July 18th and 19th, so we'll be showing the 3rd place match and then the finals in conjunction. So it'll be it's because of how the grant is written, we're not allowed to exceed 5,000 people per event. So We believe it will be a sellout. It also can't go over $10 per ticket sold. That includes fees, taxes, and everything. There will be a VIP section as well. On top of that, we were obviously awarded a national team in Haiti. Their base camp will be at Stockton University, and they will be staying in Atlantic City property.
At Stockton, right? Isn't Stockton involved in that as well?
They
somehow?
are. Their base camp is at Stockton, but
okay.
but their lodging will be here in Atlantic City.
Oh, cool.
And then on top of that, like for example, right, like the Ghana as a country was supposed to be sending over 10,000 delegates. That was supposed to be paid by their national government. We talked about it earlier about political global strife. Visas being approved, so they were only allowed to approve blocks of 2,000 visas or more. 0 got approved. So what you're seeing, like in Philadelphia, who blocked off 10,000 rooms, they've cut that by 80%. So it will be interesting to see what the impact is on the region, not because of people not interested in the games, but because of how spread out it is, the ease and accessibility to get to some of these areas. And you'll look at New York. New York is going to be a gridlocked, especially if the New York Knicks continue this run into the playoffs, or into the finals, or in the finals. So it'll be interesting because this is like when it was in Qatar, it was in Qatar. Right now, it's in California and Kansas City and Mexico and Canada and in Philadelphia and North Jersey. So trying to navigate that will be interesting. But you are seeing the blocks being cut significantly, not by 20%, by 80%.
It's also, there's been wide reporting on this. FIFA itself is largely, frankly, responsible for the very poor, to date, ticket sales. And so we're going to get a chance to see how badly, frankly, they have kind of screwed this up, to be frank. I mean, we're 3 weeks out from the men's national team playing their first game in LA. I think it's against Paraguay. And the tickets are, from what I understand, they're not even like not even half of the stadium has been sold yet.
Interesting.
So it's going to be pretty interesting, I think, to see, over the next 2-3 weeks, like how many, what happens to ticket prices on the platforms and what ends up happening.
There's a lot of blue dots right now, speaking of, right?
Yeah,
Are you surprised by that?
I tried to get tickets for New York, Philly, Miami, just to go to any game.
Yeah.
Just to take my kids. I could not get a ticket. Could not. But now you're finding, like you said, it's widely reported. Yeah. There's plenty of tickets.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I have no idea how to buy one. No clue.
Diane, is there going to be any impact in Cape May County from?
We are anticipating that we will see people coming. We're doing a lot of marketing right into Philadelphia. Again, we're looking at those who don't have tickets. If you don't have a ticket, you can go to Lemon Hill for their watch party, but you can't be anywhere around the stadium. This is also going to impact people who live around the stadium. So we're marketing to those people. We're doing a mobile format where when they enter these places, the stadium area, Fairmount Park, like that, they will get a message on their cell phone, hey, enjoy Cape May County, best beaches, watch the games. A lot of the bars, a lot of the municipalities they're not calling it a watch party, but they'll be showing the game in their towns where they do the night movies and things like that. They'll be showing the games. Kind of watch the game with your toes in the sand.
And you can bet on it, right, everybody? Yeah. Right. So we can't forget that big important part of it. And I'm sure the sports books are going to have viewing parties, right? I mean,
there's a lot of interaction they can have. But the other side is June is usually a slower month for our businesses. There's Memorial Day, then there's 4th of July, and there's all that time in between when the businesses are open. So we're hoping that it draws business in June, and that those who come there'll be lower rates. They won't go into the high season yet. So there's a lot of advantages. And again, people who want to see, the United States, they can travel and come across the bridges and head our way. Atlantic City, there's a lot that they have to offer between Philadelphia and here.
Yeah, but do you think there'll be an impact with the gambling side of FIFA? Anybody? Yeah, right. Yeah, there will be, right?
I mean, absolutely. I think when you look at what our tax on betting in New Jersey compared to Pennsylvania or New York, especially for the people that really like to bet. They're going to make that trip across the bridge to put that bet in for $1,000, and hopefully they continue driving on down. Right, that's the plan. Yeah. So I think that'll play a big role, and I think New Jersey's well suited for it. What the writing on the wall could be when the Pope was supposed to come here, and we all know how that worked out for us, and we were supposed to be crushed with an influx of people, and it wasn't that at all. So it will be interesting to say, but we've done everything in our power to make sure that we're as prepared as we can be, but FIFA, to Oliver's point, has not made it easy.
Oliver, let's move on from events and FIFA and talk a little bit about, we mentioned fuel prices. Are there any other things that will impact tourism this summer other than fuel cost, or fuel cost you can add to that conversation as well? Anything that you see that's going to impact summer right now, world conditions, area conditions, local conditions, state conditions, that's going to impact tourism this year?
I think the big wild card for me thinking about the summer is Diane kind of hit upon this earlier, where we have pretty recent indicators that consumer confidence is kind of near or at all-time lows. And I'm talking all-time lows going back to like the late 70s era. The University of Michigan's survey of consumer sentiments, this is, there's a bunch of these, but this is probably arguably the gold standard. It's been around for decades. And the April data point, which just came out not too long ago, across the board, they do current sentiment, overall sentiment, forward-looking sentiment, and across the board, these are all down heavily year on year. Obviously, I think a lot of this is tied to inflation, to the inflationary environment, the general kind of, there's obviously, war, the war is probably part of this as well. So I think, it is true, Diane mentioned the tax refunds. I think a lot of folks got higher tax returns than they assumed that they would be getting, so I think that there's a counter there a little bit. But it'll kind of be interesting, I think, to Diane's point, maybe this means that folks, still take their vacations, but, the total spend maybe is a little bit less. That wouldn't be terribly surprising to me in a world in which, the overall inflation rate has jumped like 1.5 points just in a year. We're quickly headed north of 4%. That's headline news, relative to, I think it was the summer of 22 where we hit 9% for a couple of months, and then, the Fed quickly brought this back down. So, this is definitely trending in the wrong direction. We'll see what the Fed is going to do, but I do think that there's a lot riding on the overall consumer sentiment at the end of the day. Do people still come? And if they, I think that Diane's right. I think they will come, but the question is, do you go out? How many times are you going to go out to the restaurant? How much spending are you going to do? Maybe, as you said, the beach is free. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right.
So right. That to me is kind of the one big wild card, I think, of the summer.
Michael?
No, I completely agree with everything that Oliver said. I think that, what I'm hearing just anecdotally from friends and what they're doing is they're Airbnb-ing it, and they're bringing their food, and they're cooking their food and staying inside. They have a budget now that they have to stick to. Just personally, for what I'm dealing with a 16-year-old daughter, our vacations are based around college visits and where we're going. We both, my wife's a teacher, we have good jobs, but we're being careful and frugal, at this time in our life, because it's the car insurance, it's college tuition we have to save more for, because those costs are up. So it's a combination of factors that, my generation, our generation, is dealing with now with kids that are looking to go to college and getting driver's licenses and all these other factors, where I would say 5 years ago it wasn't as big of a concern, with disposable income and doing these things. This year it's one Phillies game versus a package of 4. So what Oliver's saying is absolutely something personally that we're living in right now. The other thing I don't know how this impacts performance over the summer, but year-round sports. Having a ton of conversations with friends that their vacations are based around soccer tournaments that their kids are going to, that are being recruited. That the My friends now just booked for next weekend. They've got to go to Florida because there's a rowing, U.S. rowing for youth that they have to go. That's our vacation trip now. So the growth of these clubs and youth sports are absolutely pulling from vacation time of what families used to do to based around these recruiting trips that 1% to 2% of the kids are going to pan out from.
You could put a lot of soccer fields on Bader.
Yes, you could.
I've been asked that for a while.
Yes, you could.
If I could plus one off, Mike. So I was just at Sports ETA, which is the National Association of Sports Commissions, in April, and I found these two stats to be staggering. That 65% of destinations across the nation, sports is now their number one market, and of that, 274.5 billion is spent on sports, and that's just in the nation, right? So you're seeing that trend, and then to piggyback off what Oliver said, I think I totally agree with what he's saying about people are financially making the decision, right? But I think buying propensity is changing as well. So when they're actually making that purchase, and I'll give you an example. So our boat show that we had, they had the same one down in Miami each year. There's about 111,000 people. Their pre-sale was only 11,000. That's down like 70% from what it used to be before, because people are like, okay, and it's only a $20 ticket, right? But they're like, am I going to save that $20 because I don't know what I'm going to be doing then? Where before they were like, it's $20, you know, there's 4 of us, $80, who cares? So I think it's twofold. It's not only how much they're spending, but it's when they're making that purchase. And what you're seeing is these flash sales online for events and discounted and cuts, because the producer's like, okay, we're a week and a half out and we don't have any tickets sold.
Which could happen to the FIFA story too.
Which I think that is what's happening.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
But also, what about ticket prices themselves? I mean, when we were go to a concert, I mean, I would say, oh, I'm never going to pay more than $100 for a ticket for like the greatest band I ever want to see. Now it's easy. $100 is a deal.
Yeah,
like,
you saw what happened with Live Nation, right? So their lawsuit, they owe $280 million. They have to get rid of 13 of their smallest producing venues, and the biggest one is that they cannot be in a monopoly, and they have to let other ticket software companies come into the market, which is probably rightfully so. Savannah Bananas, everyone I'm sure knows them. Great family night out. I've spoken to him before, and his whole mantra is that he does not want tickets to be more than $25, right? He wants to be family affordable. That is his whole mantra. He wants everyone in some time in their life to go see a Savannah Banana game, right? But these third-party ticket selling companies or robots or whatever are going on there, and they're selling them for $425 instead of the $25 that is the actual base price of the ticket. So sometimes it's not the event producer themselves, it's these third-party companies going on there and profiting off of it.
And everything else, it's just a nightmare. Okay, Diane, how about in Cape May County? Anything that you see impacting tourism this summer?
Well, weather always is a major factor we kind of have to watch for. But what we're finding is that the trend is that people are looking for less crowded destinations. They're not traveling in the height of the season. And we're seeing more and more people coming in fall. And that's kind of changing the calendar, for our businesses. Are they only coming in July and August with, the whole summer is about 8 weeks long. Now we're seeing more growth, continued growth in the fall and also into the winter. So we're finding that, that's a great change for us because it allows us to become more of at least a 9-month destination.
So our businesses staying, Cape May County used to be notorious for, once Labor Day came, it was a dead zone. Are you starting to see businesses expand their seasons as far as being open longer? And because a lot of them want to ship, go down to Florida and spend that was what they did. Are you seeing businesses stay open longer?
Yes, that's always been a challenge. We can't market if you're not open, so we have to keep in contact with our stakeholders. However, we are seeing that more and more are staying open because the business is there. We know Cape May is pretty much a year-round destination, but we're seeing that in the other communities as well, the Wildwoods. And our second homeowners are a big part of our business in the spring, in the fall and the winter, and in spring, because they have homes here. It may not impact lodging, but they support all the other sectors, and we're seeing that more and more. They're not using, it used to be the same thing. The second home, Labor Day weekend, closed, shut down until Memorial Day. Now they're not closing Most of them are not closing at all. They come down, they use their second home for, events,
Because
celebrations,
there's some
things like
businesses,
that.
they're not going to stay open. Springer's Ice Cream, they're closing, man. Like they're
Exactly.
going, right? I
But
mean,
there are other
because I
places
know,
that
I want to
are-
get their ice cream.
You've tried that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are other places that are staying open, and we're seeing more and more. The scary part is when you're marketing that some place is open, and all of a sudden they say, I don't have any help, I can't stay open, and they shut their doors, by need, not because they want to.
Yeah.
So, that's a challenge for us, but we continue to update what's open, what's available, and what activities and events are taking place.
All right, last question, then we're going to open it up to some Q&A here in our room here. If you're looking into the future, are there any challenges, opportunities to consider in 2026? Things that maybe, if there are entrepreneurs, event planners, things out there that maybe, Dan, maybe we'll start with you, that Visit AC or Diane and Cape May County, that you want to see people, entrepreneurs, event planners, or anything brought into our area? What are we looking for?
Yeah, it's kind of going back to what I said earlier. I think you have to have a really, really diverse portfolio, right? Because different market segments move at different times. Like during COVID, I'll give you a great example. Sports was the first thing to come back, right? Because the professional leagues that exist showed that you could gather safely and the sports could take place. So sports came back significantly quicker than the convention trade show side of the market. So for us, we say if the dollars are green, we'll take them, to be honest. But there's no real, there's no magic pill, in my opinion, that's the perfect fit for Atlantic City. I think we've said it multiple times, the properties have never looked better. The investment is palpable, you can feel it, it's tangible. You walk in, every single property, I think it was $900 million that was invested last year in 2025 to the properties all around. And I think our guests are experiencing that. So for us, it's about consistent messaging, branding, and letting them know that Atlantic City remains open for business, not just 3 and a half months out of the year, that you can come and do other things that are outside of just going to the beach, which we love our beach. It's our most valuable resource. So yeah, there's no perfect science to it, but I think that as long as people know that we're open for business, and we're starting to see that from consistent branding and messaging, because for the longest time, when you were driving over the Walt Whitman or the Ben Franklin, you saw billboards from each property, but you never saw a billboard from the destination. And now you're starting to see our commercials being aired, and you're starting to see these digital billboards. And now we have resources to be able to go to these clients like the WWE and say, hey, we're going to give you this bid fee, right, to host the event, but we're going to give you $125,000 in digital assets as part of that now because of the billboards or the impact of 8 screens or whatever it is, right? So before we didn't have those resources, it was just a financial ask. So we're able to lower our fiduciary responsibility in some of these by offering more in-kind things that we can own and operate. And I think people are very keen to that because marketing is expensive.
Michael, any challenges? Or anything that's opportunities?
With the boardwalk, certainly in Cape May County, the boardwalk here being replaced is an enormous opportunity. I'd love to know, once they're completed with it, what's the gross vehicle weight? The gross vehicle weight on the boardwalk prevented us from doing a lot of things on the boardwalk. So with the repair work, if that increases, it opens the door for a lot more parades and activities. You saw the success this past year of the St. Patty's Day Parade and what that did. I mean, that was a monster this past year that we supported. Doing more things like that. I think the CDCs bring an interesting aspect to it now that they're a few years in and trying to brand their identity for neighborhoods in Atlantic City and grow with that. Everybody wants to go out to eat now. It's like, well, where do locals eat? Where can I go into a neighborhood and get what the people that live here eat? So I think that's a big part of it.
I think there's a new beach bar at Caesars this
Yeah.
year. I think we should let people know about that. Any other thing that's opening? I was trying to rack my brain about anything that's new. Any new big investments that are opening this year that we should tell people about, whether it's in Cape May or Atlantic County. I'm sure there's always restaurants, things like that, but any major things? Caesars Beach Bar is the one that stands out to me.
There's another beach bar going off Georgia Avenue that just went through our land use process that they're trying to get open pretty quickly. So you
Okay.
could have 2 beach bars almost right next to each other.
Okay. I saw construction in front of Showboat, but I don't think that's going to be this summer. I think that's down the road. Diane, anything in Cape May County? Any significant openings?
There's investment all the time. There's new investment in hotels and restaurants, things like that, investments on the boardwalk. So they all come together to add to the experience and bring new people. And that's what we work to make sure we're on top of it, what's new, what's happening, and there's always something You know, we have now a new trolley service that takes people all around so they can park their car. So that's something new, because transportation is usually, you know, something that we hear about in our surveys, you know, parking, the increase in parking, lack of parking, things like that. So, you know, we're always looking into, you know, those things that are new and innovative, and we encourage that. The chambers also we work well with them to encourage new businesses and new ways to support the tourism industry.
All right, let's open it up to the audience. Any questions from our audience here that we would like to entertain to our panel? No?
Yes, I will also open it up to our online virtual. Yes, I'll also open it on to our virtual guests. If you have any questions for the panel, you can submit them using either the chat or the Q&A tab. And we'll give them a minute to populate a few questions for us.
In the meantime, anybody here, any questions, comments?
New York gaming, while we're waiting for a question, people are saying, oh, 4 or 5 years down the road, but it's already happening. Tables have opened in the casinos that are already there. Do we expect any immediate impact on what's happening in New York? Anyone?
Yes, I think it'd be naive to not think that there's going to be an immediate impact for sure. I think the difficult thing about it is that they're not a direct competitor from a market standpoint, but from a gaming standpoint, they are a direct competitor, right? So, and to have that robust population right there, are they? And we talk about gas prices. Are they going to get in their car where they can just, you know, take an Uber to a casino right there in New York? So, how those cards fall eventually, we'll find out. But the short answer is absolutely, and I think that we need to continue to reinvent and reimagine how Atlantic City positions itself in not only the gaming market, but as a destination market as well.
I guess on my radio show, fear the loss of the Asian gaming more than anything, that they're not, you know, that the Asian players aren't going to travel as much here or not. That's been the biggest rise here. You saw Borgata invest significantly in their Asian gaming rooms and like that. Michael, anything from your perspective there?
No, I think it's new. What's it, Resorts World that opened in New York recently? So it's brand new. So you're going to see this tremendous spike in gaming revenue there for people that maybe don't game consistently, but they just want to go check it out. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to let things settle down for a little bit and give it a little bit more time. And we have incredible assets here for the summer months, and then when we get into the fall and see where it goes. So it doesn't surprise me at all to see a spike initially upon opening doors, because people just want to go check it out. Like, what's new? So we'll see what happens in the long term.
Okay. Anything online?
No, and it looks like we don't have any questions in the audience. I think we'll take that as
Brian,
a compliment.
Do you have a question, Brian? Okay.
Brian?
We have one question.
Just a comment, and thank you everyone for helping out today. I really appreciate you being here. But two of you mentioned the hotel occupancy tax, and I've looked into the situation as well. The numbers do not seem to be accurate since they switched to the portal for businesses to report tax collections. I want to say that was March or April of last year. They actually didn't report for a month, combined 2 months, and most of the numbers, not only in Atlantic and Cape May counties, but throughout the state, appear to be wrong and do not comport with, you know, what we're seeing on the ground, what I'm hearing in conversations. So.
All right. Well, thank you to the panel and Michael, Oliver, Daniel, Diane, and on behalf of me, I want to thank everyone here at Stockton for having me, and I'll let Jane sign us
Yes,
off.
thank you everyone, especially the panel, for sharing your insight and your time. And thank you for coming out in the rain today to our in-person audience. I think it's the first time we didn't have any questions until Brian jumped in. Thanks for saving the day. So I think that means that you all did an excellent job of covering what everyone is interested in hearing about. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And everyone have a great day.
Thank you.